You ever notice how a man will walk around acting like he's bulletproof, like nothing can touch him, nothing can shake him, nothing can get under that thick skin he swears he has? But the moment the woman he loves looks at him with that "I expected more from you" expression, suddenly this superhero is humbled right back into being human. See, men will pretend they're tough, but the truth is simple. A man's ego is tender, not weak tender. And when a woman touches it the right way, challenges it the right way, checks it the right way, that man will move mountains just to prove himself again. Because men need something to rise to, something to measure themselves against, something worth fighting for. And when a woman stops babying him, stops tiptoeing around his feelings, stops treating him like some fragile porcelain prince, and instead gives him that honest, sharp truth, oh, he feels it. And he can love you even harder because of it. But don't get it twisted. Hurting his ego doesn't mean disrespecting him. It doesn't mean tearing him down. It means holding him accountable to the level of man he wants to be, not the level he's comfortable staying at. It means letting him know you see his potential and you're not impressed by anything less. Men fall deeply for the women who expect something from them because it forces them to show up. And when a man starts showing up, he starts loving with intention. A man doesn't love you madly because you praise him. He loves you madly because you challenge him, because you make him think, because you make him reflect, because you're the one person who isn't scared to tell him you can do better. Every man remembers the woman who woke him up, the woman who made him step into his own greatness. So yes, hurt his ego, not his heart, not his spirit, not his dignity, but that ego, sometimes it needs a bruise, because that bruise becomes pressure, and pressure creates a man who loves with purpose, with effort, with fire. You don't get a madly in love man by bending for him. You get him by standing firm. And trust me, when a man realizes you're the one woman who can sharpen him, he'll do everything in his power to keep you close. Stop validating him for bare minimum effort. It sounds simple, but most women don't realize how much they've trained a man to coast. You tell him good job for things he barely tried at. You forgive him instantly when he messes up. And you make excuses for him when everyone else would have walked away. And over time, that man starts believing that minimum effort is enough to keep you around. He starts thinking he doesn't have to show up fully because you'll always tolerate him. There's a quiet power in stepping back, in pausing before you compliment, before you praise, before you acknowledge, in letting him sit with the feeling of being just okay instead of enough. Men are wired to rise to challenges. If there's no challenge, no bar to reach, no expectation, they remain stagnant. That's not arrogance, it's human nature. And women who keep giving validation for bare effort are unknowingly keeping him stagnant. You have to remember that a man wants to impress you, but he will only impress you if he sees that your approval is something valuable. Approval that's handed out freely loses its meaning. It becomes wallpaper, background noise. But approval that is earned, that resonates, that sparks pride, ambition, and focus. That's when a man will push himself beyond his comfort zone, and that's when he will start loving you in ways you've never imagined. It's painful to hold back sometimes. There's a voice inside saying, but I just want to make him feel good, or I don't want him to get upset. But the truth is, love isn't about making him feel good all the time. Love is about showing him the best version of himself. And you can't do that if you constantly prop him up for mediocrity. You'll notice that at first, he will test you. He might act frustrated, distant, or even try to guilt you into giving validation freely again. This is normal. This is part of the process. Men don't change overnight, and they don't suddenly start working harder because it's convenient for them. They start changing because they feel the absence of complacency. They feel the push to rise, and they begin to step into it. The key is to do it with respect, not cruelty, not humiliation. You're not shaming him. You're showing him that his effort has real consequences and real recognition. You're showing him that love isn't free just because he exists. You're showing him that he matters more when he gives more. And when he realizes this, He will begin to give more, love more, and invest more. It's a subtle shift at first, a quiet withholding of praise, a pause before you nod or smile, a refusal to clap for the ordinary. But over time, it becomes a force. It becomes the invisible hand that lifts him higher, pushes him harder, and awakens a part of him that only thrives when challenged. And that's the kind of love that's real, intentional, and unforgettable. Challenge him with standards, not attitude. There's a difference, and most women get it wrong. Attitude pushes a man away. Standards pull him closer. Attitude makes him defensive. Standards make him rise. If you speak to him with judgment, sarcasm, or constant criticism, all you get is resistance, excuses, and distance. But if you communicate clearly what you will and will not accept, what you deserve and what you expect, he feels the call to action. Men need boundaries to know what's important. They need a line to aim for, a target to hit, a standard to reach. When a woman simply accepts whatever is convenient or easy, she robs him of the chance to grow. But when she challenges him by expecting better, by refusing to compromise her worth, he begins to see himself differently. Suddenly, he's not just a man going through the motions. He's a man who wants to rise, to prove himself, to show up fully. It's not about control. It's not about power trips. It's about respect for him and for yourself. Standards are a reflection of love. They show him that you believe in his capacity to be more, to do more, to love more. When a man sees that you have expectations that align with your worth, he understands that love isn't passive. It isn't just a feeling. It's a force that inspires action. Some women fear being firm because they think it will push him away. But here's the truth. The wrong man will walk, and that's okay. You don't need a man who shrinks away from your standards. You need a man who rises to them. You need a man who sees your clarity, your boundaries, your expectations, and says, I want to be that man for her. That is the kind of love that runs deep. That is the kind of commitment that lasts. Challenging a man with standards also creates excitement in the relationship. There's tension, yes, but it's the good kind, the kind that sparks desire, motivation, and focus. When he knows he has to meet a certain bar, he begins to compete not against you, but against himself. He measures his own worth by the standards you've set, and he works to surpass them. That's when admiration grows into obsession and respect turns into devotion. It takes courage to hold your standards. It takes strength to resist the temptation to lower them for comfort or fear. But every time you do, you send a message that love is not about settling. Love is about rising together. And when he sees that your standards aren't arbitrary, that they are a reflection of self-respect and vision, he begins to love you in ways he didn't know were possible. You might notice resistance at first. You might hear complaints, excuses, or even anger. That is the ego reacting, testing the limits. That is him confronting the part of himself that wants to stay small, but stay firm, stay consistent, stay confident in your expectations. Over time, he will align, he will step up, he will begin to meet those standards. And in the process, he will begin to love you madly, intentionally, completely. Use silence as the strongest mirror. Most women think communication is only about talking, but sometimes the most powerful message is the one you don't say. When a man is used to constant attention, constant reassurance, constant praise, he loses touch with himself. He starts taking things for granted. That's where silence comes in. Silence forces him to see himself as you see him. Silence gives him space to reflect, to recognize, to understand his own behavior without you spelling it out. Men respond to presence and absence in ways women often overlook. When you stop reacting immediately, stop filling every pause with words, stop smoothing over his mistakes, he notices. He feels the gap. He wonders what's changed. He begins to ask himself questions he's been avoiding. Why isn't she praising me for this? Why isn't she clapping for that? What am I missing? Silence becomes a mirror because it reflects the truth back to him without judgment. He starts seeing who he is versus who he could be. It's not about punishing him. It's about creating awareness. Men grow when they are confronted with reality in a way they cannot ignore. And nothing confronts a man more than quiet, no explanations, no accusations, just presence withheld until he steps up. When he starts paying attention to the emptiness, the lack of reaction, the space you leave intentionally, he begins to fill it with action. He begins to prove himself because he knows he cannot coast while the silence exists. The power of silence also shows him that your love is intentional, that it is not automatic, that it is not a given. When a man realizes your affection isn't free and your attention isn't unlimited, he starts valuing it more. He starts seeing that every word, every smile, every gesture carries weight. And when he sees that, he starts working to earn it. He starts being more present, more intentional, more committed. You might feel tempted to break the silence, to explain, to justify, to soften the tension. Don't let him sit in it. Let him wrestle with it. Let him realize that your approval and attention are tied to effort, respect, and growth. That's where the transformation happens. That's where he begins to rise to the challenge. That's where he begins to love you more fiercely because he sees the value of what he almost lost. Silence is the canvas where he paints his own change. It is not coldness. It is strategy. It is wisdom. And it is magnetic. A man who is used to being chased, praised, coddled, and validated at every turn becomes alive in the presence of a woman who speaks with silence as much as words. He learns to listen to himself, to notice his actions, to measure his worth in relation to hers. When you master the art of silence, you don't just teach a man accountability, you teach him respect. You teach him that love has boundaries, that attention has standards, and that connection must be nurtured. And when he realizes he cannot take you for granted, he begins to pursue you in a way that is relentless, intentional, and madly in love. Let him feel the absence of your approval. Too many women give it away like it's nothing, like it's some automatic response to being in a relationship. You did something nice, here's my smile. You handled something okay, here's my praise. And before you know it, he stops noticing. He stops striving, he stops trying, because he knows approval will come whether he earns it or not. When a man feels your approval slipping away, something shifts inside him. He starts to pay attention in a way he wasn't before. He starts thinking about what he said, what he did, how he acted. That absence forces reflection. It's like holding up a mirror that only shows what really matters. He notices the details he overlooked, the moments he didn't try, the words he spoke carelessly. And when he notices those things, he begins to correct them, not for anyone else, but because he wants to earn back that approval. It's subtle, but powerful. You don't need to yell. You don't need to argue. You don't need to make him feel small. You just let him feel that space where recognition should have been. That small pause, that quiet distance, that gentle lack of affirmation, it hits him harder than anything you could say. Men respond to energy, not lectures. They respond to what they feel, not what they hear. And when he feels the absence of your approval, he begins to act differently. He begins to care more, to try harder, to notice more. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. You may worry that you're being harsh, that you're creating tension, that you're pushing him away. But this is where love grows. This is where respect builds. A man who is used to taking approval for granted suddenly realizes its value. He realizes that it's not something owed to him. He realizes that it's something he has to earn. And when he earns it, he values it more than ever. You might see a change in his behavior. He may become more attentive. He may begin to listen. He may step up in ways you've been hoping for but didn't see coming. That's the power of withholding approval. It's not punishment. It's awakening. It's showing him that love isn't free, that attention isn't unlimited, that connection is not automatic. And when he realizes that, he begins to rise to the occasion, to show up fully, to invest in ways that surprise even himself. This is why men love women who set standards, who hold back praise until effort meets expectation. They are inspired, challenged, and activated by it. When a man knows that your approval is earned and not given freely, he begins to value himself more, respect you more, and love you more. That absence becomes the fuel that drives him to step into his best self, to become a man who is capable of the kind of love he wants to give, the kind of partner he wants to be, and the kind of commitment that lasts. Every woman who has mastered the art of letting a man feel the absence of her approval has seen the change. She sees him notice what he never noticed before. She sees him act in ways he never acted before. She sees him strive to earn the recognition he once took for granted. And in that striving, he begins to love with intention, with depth, and with a fire that only comes when he realizes the true value of what he almost lost. Don't rescue his pride. Let him rebuild it. So many women rush in the moment they see him stumble, fail, or fall short. They fix things, smooth things over, and protect him from embarrassment. And while it may feel nurturing, what it actually does is teach him to rely on you instead of himself. It teaches him that he doesn't need to take responsibility, that he doesn't need to rise to the challenge, and that he can coast because you'll always be there to catch him. Men need to feel the weight of their own actions. They need to face consequences, small and large, so they understand their place in the relationship, in life, and in their own self-worth. When you rescue him every time, you strip him of the chance to prove himself, to show resilience, and to take pride in his own growth. And pride, real pride, is what fuels love. It's what motivates a man to fight for the woman he loves, to protect her, and to invest in her fully. Letting him rebuild his pride doesn't mean abandoning him. It means standing firm while he navigates the situation. It means allowing him to experience failure or embarrassment in a safe space, knowing that he can rise again. It means resisting the urge to jump in and solve everything for him, to explain for him, to apologize for him. Because when he rebuilds his pride himself, he owns it, he earns it. And when he earns it, he values it more than anything you could give him. The first time you let him take that hit and come back stronger, he will be shocked. He will wonder why you didn't step in. He will feel exposed, vulnerable, maybe even a little scared. But that's exactly the point. Vulnerability forces reflection. Exposure forces growth. And when he rises out of that, he begins to associate that transformation with you. He begins to respect you more. He begins to value your presence, your standards, and your belief in him more than ever. It takes patience, because men don't always rebuild instantly. Some stumble again. Some take longer than you expected. But every time he tries, every time he regains a little more of his pride, he becomes more capable of love, more capable of commitment, more capable of devotion. And he begins to see you as the woman who never coddled, never compromised your boundaries, but always inspired him to become his best self. This is what separates a man who loves casually from a man who loves madly. The man who has been allowed to rebuild his pride in your presence, under your watchful and unwavering gaze, becomes fully invested. He becomes relentless in his pursuit of being worthy of you. He becomes intentional in his actions, his words, and his devotion. Every woman who allows a man to rebuild his pride sees the difference. She sees the fire light up in him. She sees him stand taller, speak stronger, and act bolder. She sees him fight for her, not because she begged, not because she fixed, but because he feels the strength he regained and wants to share it with the woman who inspired it. And that is the kind of love that consumes him, motivates him, and binds him to you in ways he never imagined. Make him earn emotional closeness. Too many women give it freely, like it's some entitlement. They share their heart, their vulnerabilities, their time, their attention, and their love without hesitation, thinking that being open and available will make him love harder. But men don't value what comes easy. They don't fight for what's free. And when emotional closeness is handed over without effort, it loses its weight, its power, its meaning. A man must feel like he has to work for your heart. He must feel that each moment of intimacy, each confession, each piece of your inner world is something precious he earns. When he earns it, he values it, he cherishes it, he protects it, and in doing so, he becomes fully invested in you, in the relationship, and in the life you're building together. This doesn't mean playing games. It doesn't mean withholding love cruelly. It means setting boundaries that reflect your worth. It means showing him that your trust, your vulnerability, your attention, and your time are valuable. It means making him prove that he is worthy of the space he wants in your heart. And the moment he steps up, the moment he shows consistency, care, and respect, the closeness he earns is deeper, more meaningful, and more binding than anything you could have given without effort. Men are wired to rise to challenges. When emotional intimacy is something they must work for, they rise. When they realize that every level of closeness comes with responsibility, they begin to respect it, protect it, and nurture it. And when they do, they also begin to love in ways that are intentional, purposeful, and lasting. They no longer take you for granted because they know the effort it takes to reach you. The process requires patience and persistence. There will be moments of frustration when he falters, when he doesn't quite meet the standard, when he seems careless or distracted. But those moments are opportunities to reinforce boundaries, to remind him that emotional closeness is sacred, to let him see that it is not something automatic or guaranteed. When handled with consistency and calm strength, these moments teach him responsibility, accountability, and the value of earning your trust. When a man works for emotional closeness, something magical happens. He becomes fully present. He becomes attentive. He begins to notice the details, the nuances, the little things that matter most to you. He begins to value your heart because he understands what it took to earn it. He begins to invest himself entirely, not just in the relationship, but in the love he shares with you. Women who master this create bonds that are unshakable. They create a love where effort is matched with appreciation, where respect is paired with devotion, where emotional intimacy is treasured, guarded, and celebrated. And the man who experiences this kind of love doesn't just fall for her, he becomes consumed by it, drawn to it, and committed to it in a way that is fierce, unwavering, and madly in love.